Well, we are looking forward very much to the new full member Estonia. I think Estonia is very well placed to become ESA member because it is already very strong in the academic sector. As you mentioned yourself, you have a very good industrial IT part, and Earth observation, for example, has grown by the fact that we had this IT development. Without the processing capacities today, the broadband network, etc., we would not be where we are at the moment. What is coming up in Earth observation is now cloud computing, big data processing, crowdsourcing in combination with satellite-based data. All this is popping up, and I think Estonian industry is well placed to play its role in the application sector, for example. Well, it's manifold, I have to say. Our planet is a complex system. We live on this planet, and we investigate all different systems of planet Earth, ocean, land, atmosphere. It's important for the society in many aspects to understand the environment better, to monitor environmental treaties, for example, to see what's happening, to understand the processes, but then also make a long-term monitoring in all these different aspects of pollution, let's say, protecting nature reserve areas, national heritages, cultural heritage. I mean, it's a lot of strong spectrum. And we also need Earth observation more and more for the day-to-day management of our countries, be it what is the ice situation on the Baltic Sea, be it what is different operations, marine operations, for example, doing to the seafloor, etc. So there are many aspects for which we need Earth observation data nowadays. Well, it's both, in fact. Again, here we have the aspect of combining in situ data. You mentioned cellular phone data, for example, with satellite-based data. We can measure nowadays, to give one example from satellite, subsidence. That means if buildings are sinking or rising in the millimeter, centimeter range, we can measure this with radar satellites. This is a very important information for the management of a city. We have most of the growth of population, and we expect 2 billion more until the mid of this century in cities. So more and more mega cities are also popping up on this planet. And to manage these conglomerates, we need Earth observation data. Also for Europe, where we don't have these mega cities, but nevertheless, more and more people live in cities, and this is a load to the environment. We can, for planning purposes, for example, produce digital maps, digital elevation models. As I mentioned already, subsidence maps, which are already produced for 40 cities in Europe, where you can see building by building what is happening. If you build a metro line, for example, you see that buildings over the metro line are sinking a bit. Or if you extract groundwater for breweries, then you can see this. Mm-hmm. Yeah? And all these effects, I think, are very important for the management of our urban environments.
And they are becoming more and more operational.
That is another aspect we have. At the beginning, it was really academic, but now more and more companies, also small and medium-sized companies, taking up these algorithms. And as we have with Copernicus a system upcoming where we have every 5 days a complete coverage with satellite maps of Europe, this helps to develop operational applications. Definitely Copernicus will be a game changer as it delivers for the first time data every 5 days for the whole planet in higher latitudes, even every day or every 2 days. So this is, of course, something, and it's guaranteed for at least 25 years. So industry can also invest now based on this type of data. Before we had only scientific satellites, which were one-offs for 5 to 10 years, and it was difficult to get private investment into that. More and more applications are now also in the hand of private companies, be it for the government, because the governmental market is also a market. Of course, many of the data and products and information we extract from satellites are in the interest of governments, be it on the environmental side, on traffic side, or on security side, to give 3 examples. We had already in the past commercial markets, and the commercial market is growing with about 10% per year. For example, when the mobile communication systems were built up to calculate where the towers should be positioned, you needed Earth observation data, digital elevation models, land cover, to calculate what is the optimum distribution of these towers. It's one example. More of these examples will come up, of course. Well, as director for the whole Earth observation program, I don't think I have the right to have a favorite. I love all my satellites and projects. But if I look into our scientific mission, which usually make a breakthrough in a new application area, in a new science, the next mission is a mission I think is exciting. It's called Aeolus. It will measure for the first time with a high power laser from space wind vectors, because we cannot measure wind directly so far from space. We used balloons from ground to get the profiles, or one can also measure how the clouds move, but it's all indirect. And this would be the first time of a direct measurement. And if this is successfully demonstrated, it might become an operational instrument for EUMETSAT in the next generation. And this is, I think, a very, very interesting mission.
So you think there are high chances it will be for a future METOP series, and it could improve the weather forecast enormously?
I think it could, yeah. Whether it's then on a METOP 3rd generation, because we are just working on the prototype of the 2nd generation, and for this one it's too late, or on a separate small satellite, for example, has to be seen. Well, I would say the first images from space, for example from the moon, when you see this little blue planet rising over the horizon of moon, which is a desert, has shown all citizens of this planet that we are living on a little spaceship. And this little spaceship is only protected by a thin layer of fragile atmosphere from space, where it's cold, where it's vacuum, where we cannot live. And I think this gives the spirit that we have to protect this environment, we have to protect this planet, we have to understand it. And I think this is what is our task in this generation more than in any generation before.